The Ghost and Mrs. Muir will not be presented tonight so that we may bring you the following special program.
Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners.
The Universal Monsters are kind of just another set of icons to me. The Bride of Frankenstein, Creature from Black Lagoon, Frankenstein Monster, Dracula, the Wolfman, Invisible Man, and the Mummy. Approaching these monster characters intellectually is not such a different thing than the superheroes, except there's not really going to be an interpretation where I might bring to superheroes that are normally identified as drawings first, specifically because of these screen adaptations, because of those actors and the way they looked in portraying those roles.
If you're here at Word Balloon, it's because you like comics, creators, conversation, pop culture subjects. Would you consider joining the League of Word Balloon Listeners? Patreon.com/wordballoon. When you subscribe, you'll also be part of the Word Balloon Book Club, where Brian Michael Bendis and I will pick a comic every month to review and discuss live with the League on this show. Join the League today, patreon.com/wordballoon. Thank you always for your support, League of Word Balloon listeners. How you doing, everybody? Welcome back. It's time again for another Word Balloon Live, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here. Man, I haven't talked to this guy in years, but it is great to get a former resident of the Empath Treehouse on Word Balloon. It's Sterling Gates. Welcome back, Sterling.
Hey, everybody. What a cool intro, by the way. Like, I love that intro. I love the fists, but I also like Alex Ross talking about the Universal Monsters. That's fun. He's such a talented so-and-so.
Oh, my God, yes. And, he was kind enough, and you can appreciate this as a man of the film world and the television world. They had the Kingdom Come documentary come out, and I'm one of the talking heads in it.
Of course you are. Of course, you should be. As a comics ambassador, you have done so much to further information about the medium, and it makes me so happy. Like, I catch your show, not all the time because life, but like every time I catch your show, I'm so glad that I tuned in, and you have such incredible interview subjects, and like, it's just always such a joy to see you talk to some of these like legendary creators. So.
Sometimes I refer to myself as comic book Oprah because people guests open up to me in ways that I don't expect, and it's like,
yes,
okay. As you were watching last night, Greg Rucka obviously made some. Honestly, man, I knew he was angry when things were bad for him. I didn't realize to what extent. And for people who are listening and watching that didn't see the interview, I encourage you to listen to it or watch it. But yeah, it's I'm glad he's better. I'm glad that the regime at DC is better. In fact, I didn't realize you were telling me off the air that we had recorded something the last time you and I spoke that I ended up not using because of your circumstances, if you don't mind going into it.
Yeah, the last time we spoke, I was writing in the New 52 era. Like, this is sort of in 2011, right? That was New 52's.
Yeah.
And I had done, I was working on Hawk and Dove, and I was done a big interview. And then shortly thereafter, I was dismissed from Hawk and Dove, and I had to kill. I think I emailed you and said, "Look, man, like, unfortunately, like, all of my plans are gone." So, like, but like the New 52 was the most tumultuous time in comics. Like, any creator that was a part of that, DC era is going to probably tell you the same thing, that there was a lot of confusion. No one really knew what was happening on a day-to-day basis. Every day we had new emails from editorial. Can you fix this? Change this? The office down the hall doesn't agree with this story beat. Like, I mean, it was a very tumultuous time for creative. And, and then over the course of a couple of years, it settled. And then, I worked on Vibe. I did a Vibe book, Justice League of America Presents Vibe. And, I did a bunch of stuff in Forever Evil, that story.
Who was your villain? Who was your villain then?
I did Killer Frost, which is where we created Caitlin Snow, who then became the character on the Flash TV show. And I did Black Adam. I wrote the Black Adam issue. And I did the Secret Society issue about the Outsider. And Kodransky did the art for that issue, and it was so good. Simon Kodransky.
Was that Flashpoint Outsider, or was that a different Outsider?
It was sorry, I guess it was like the evil version of the
Alfred?
Earth 3 version. I think so. Honestly, you're asking questions that I've forgotten the answers to. Like,
yeah, man, that was like 7 years ago or so. Yeah, believe me, it's cool.
It was 12 years ago.
Oh my God. Well, there you go, man. Absolutely.
It was over a decade of my life ago. And so like I did that. Those issues were super fun to do. Like Forever Evil was such a fun. Oh, and I did the Argus miniseries with Steve Trevor and Killer Frost as like a team up book. Those issues were super fun to do, but like the specifics of some of that stuff, a lot of life has happened since then. A whole pandemic has happened since then. So I don't remember all the specifics. I should revisit some stuff. So.
And a lot of your TV and film work has been since then as well. And we'll get to that. Mm-hmm. But I know one of the reasons why you're on, and you'll forgive me because I wasn't able to find the cover, but are they called DC Digest, the new reprints that are like 5x8 or whatever they are? Isn't that what the new Krypton stuff is being presented in, or is it regular size?
The new Krypton stuff is coming out in omnibus form.
Okay.
In a crazy. So I got an email from DC. They're reprinting some of my Supergirl issues, and I think they're going to be part of the DC Comics companion line. I can't remember what it's called. It's like
all right, maybe that's what it is.
Like a digest form. So they're reprinting.
Yeah.
The Bizarro Girl story is being reprinted next year.
Fantastic.
In time for the movie to come out.
Yeah.
And so in that email thread, I was like, they asked me about other Supergirl reprints. And I said, you know what I really would love to come out of DC is doing New Krypton in omnibus format in reading order, which we never got to do. And the editor was like, oh, you mean this thing that we're planning on launching in February of next year? And I was like, holy shit, like really? And like, yeah. And I said, I would love the opportunity to reorder the books in the way they're meant to be read. And they sent me the book map, and it was all out of whack. Like they had taken basically each trade and put it in trade order. And that story was never meant to be read that way. That story was always meant to be jumping from Greg's issues to James's issues to my issues and back and forth throughout. That was how it was designed. That's why we did triangle numbers.
Sure.
You know, and the example that I used that I think really sparked their interest was Who is Superwoman, which was my first big Supergirl story, 5-issue story. World of New Krypton #1 hits, and then that whole story takes place over a couple days, and then World of New Krypton #2 references that story as a thing that has just happened. And they were like completely flabbergasted by that. And I said, guys, let me just sit down and work out the reading order. And so it took me like a month, because it's 150 issues, to reorder the entire thing in concert with what the conversation they were having. And then like, you know, they were trying to figure out where the Blackest Night Superman story hits, and where like Jeff was doing that Superboy story, and where does that hit, and like all that's like it took a lot of work. But New Krypton will be if knock on wood, it'll be a 3 omnibus volume series that has all of New Krypton in order in a way you've never read it before. And then I wrote the introduction for volume 1.
Oh, great.
Talking about like the challenge of taking material from 17 years ago and then reordering it to read smoothly. And like, if Lois is doing a thing in one of Greg's issues, then she can't be doing a thing in the Supergirl issue. So we need to move that Supergirl issue chronologically down. Like it became an Excel spreadsheet of charting where each character was. And I know in 2009, someone in editorial had done this work, but there's been a company move from New York to LA. A lot of those editors are long gone. I'm the person left holding the torch of New Krypton of like, this is how we need to present this story. So it was a really unique opportunity, and I'm very thankful DC let me do that. A guy named Jeb Woodard and Alex Galler, I think, are the people at DC that are helping me do that. But it's been really fun. It's been a lot of work because, again, New Krypton's 150 issues across 3 years. So
if I remember correctly, Kandor is made full size, and we get a planet, and Zod is released from the Phantom Zone, and of all people, Allura, Supergirl's mother, is like, I don't know how to break it to you, but all these things that you've learned about Zod are wrong. He was a political prisoner. There is, and it's ironic that we're talking on a very political, sad day.
Yes,
that's all I'll say about the real world. That we're here to allow you to get away from the misery that sadly we're all in right now.
Correct.
And regardless, but it really was interesting because both Kara and Cal had to suddenly realize, well, what did we grow up with? If the bad guy may not really be a bad guy, and so it really was a great thing. I have the Alex Ross. One of the Alex Ross covers
I love
that was during your run. But I also want to acknowledge, and I did this just to encapsulate his great work. Your wonderful collaborator, Jamal Igo.
Jamal, what a guy.
Tremendous guy.
Tremendous person, lovely human being, incredible artist. We've actually pitched DC a couple times to come back and do a Supergirl miniseries, and they've very politely declined because they have other plans. But I would work with Jamal in a fucking heartbeat.
I hear you, man.
He is, for my money, one of the most talented artists in the entire comics scene, specifically American superhero comics. But he can draw anything. And part of the joy of working with him was every script I would throw him a curveball just to see what he would do. And the one that I remember most was his wife is French, and they had gone to France on vacation. And the next issue, I wrote this giant fight scene in front of the Eiffel Tower. And the joke that I made was well, now your trip is a research trip. It's a tax write-off. But I want to see you draw the Eiffel Tower, man. What does it look like? And so we have Nightwing and Flamebird and Supergirl are fighting Squad K, which was a thing that was in the books at the time, in front of the Eiffel Tower, and they fire off red sun grenades, and then they crash through into the Paris sewers, so you get to draw the sewers and all this stuff. It was just such a joy to work with him, in part because anything I threw at him, he elevated so much. I own the original artwork. I have it framed on a wall, the original artwork of New Krypton exploding.
Oh wow.
And that moment was such a monumental, it was literally the climax of 3 years of work. And the challenge to him was can you make the destruction of a planet visceral and in the foreground, Superman is fighting Zod, Ursa, Non. And then in the background, this entire planet's just coming apart. And it's one of the most incredible pieces of artwork. And he's such an amazing artist. And we were so lucky to have him on Supergirl those years. So lucky. I legit, I can't say enough good stuff about that guy. He was such a great partner, creative partner.
Absolutely. No, you guys were a great team. And I want to acknowledge some of the comments we're already getting in the peanut gallery.
Oh, can I see the comments? They're Dennis Hoffman.
Yep. Sterling, miss your comics. Your Supergirl with the incredible Jamal Igo made me love Kara. Also, I still love World of New Krypton. Wish you and James got to do your original version of the war. What was the version that we got, and what did you guys want to do, and what did we end up getting instead? War of the Superman.
The War of the Superman. We'd originally envisioned that project as it was the climax of several years of Superman and Supergirl stories. And we envisioned it. New Krypton was always going to explode. It was Reactron was always the bomb that destroyed New Krypton, and it helped. It weirdly helped legitimize Reactron up until that point because he was a lower tier Supergirl villain we had built up, and then once we stumbled on oh, he's the bomb, it made him, oh, he's one of the biggest Supergirl villains of all time. He kills Kara's mom, he kills many of the New Kryptonians. There's still some, floating around. The idea was once you destroy New Krypton and all the surviving Kryptonians came to Earth for revenge, Revenge of the Supermen, basically. And then you got all of Sam Layton's forces he's been amassing over the last couple of years fighting, and all of the DC heroes kind of caught in between. So we were going to do a company-wide crossover that was, I think, 6 months. Like, we wanted to run it kind of like Sinestro Corps, where it's like there's one main through-line book, and then if your book chooses to participate, we would give you a Kryptonian thing that we can reference in the main book and run it like Sinestro Corps. You know, when it like crossed over to Blue Beetle and crossed over to all these kind of rare books. But we wanted to give everyone at DC, every creative team, an opportunity to take part in a giant Superman story. And we, as Greg pointed out earlier this week, that era of DC was very tumultuous. And a lot of editorial teams were not necessarily gelling with one another. I'm being as political as possible here. And as a result, the meeting became, we're not doing a 6-month crossover with all the books. We're doing 5 issues across 1 month. And we're just finishing the story as quickly as we can so that we can get to J. Michael Straczynski's Superman Walks Across America story. And that's a whole other story to tell on a different.
I was in the JMS doghouse for a long time because of my editorial frustration with that ridiculous story, and I'll still say it today.
My thinking and the thing that I said in the meeting was make Walking Superman a miniseries. Like that's a perfectly fun 6-issue Superman event series. Yes. Instead of cutting our 2+ years of buildup short to satisfy the needs of that story, let us do our big story and get people excited to read Superman versus all the Kryptonians and Zod, General Lane, like all the shit we've been building. Yeah. Let us tell that story and let JMS do his own story over here wherever he wants to.
Of course. And
you'll get more juice out of a number 1 JMS.
Yeah,
you get more juice, and you can make that we're launching a new Superman series, and you put him on the news or wherever. That I had that conversation and was very politely told to shut the fuck up because
I'm sure
that's what we're doing.
Yeah. Sterling, you'll forgive me, just like I told Greg. I gotta, from a demonetization standpoint, I gotta watch the F-bombs. That's okay. That's all right. Hey, man, you're talking to the king of F-bombs, and it's one of the reasons why I went to the internet was I wouldn't have an FCC telling me you can't use an F-bomb.
Fair. Sorry, pardon me then.
That's fair is an acceptable word. That's a good.
So our story got cut very short. To Dennis, Mr. Hoffman's point, our story was cut way shorter than we planned for it to be, and so what was going to be like an epic issue of the Guardian fighting Codename Assassin with Jimmy Olsen caught in the middle turned into 4 panels or 2 pages or what. And that's, so the storytelling became so shortened that became at Alex Segura's suggestion, it became the 100-minute war. And so because Alex was with DC at that point, and that story
good marketing.
Created sort of a 24 television show kind of countdown clock of what happens across 100 minutes when you've got 15,000 Kryptonians, all of whom are as powerful as Superman in theory, coming after our Earth's heroes and our Earth's. So it changed the nature of the story for the better, question mark. It helped us sort of blow out all that stuff as fast as possible. We had a lot of conversations about what to prioritize as a result. And the story became, we've spent all this time focusing on Superman and Supergirl and their relationship. And that's the heart of that entire thing. And so Supergirl in issue 2 is turned against the Earth, and Superman has to sort of pull her back into the light. And then she's like, I have to, I'm caught in the middle. What do I do? And it led to a lot of great emotional work that we did with those characters, but it always is kind of a bummer because the last stand of New Krypton, which was the story that led into War of the Superman, we got to do, I think it's 20 parts, and it's all the stuff with the Legion and Brainiac and New Krypton and all this stuff. And then it's okay, now we're ready for the big climactic stuff, series. And then it was all just cut into 1 month's time, essentially. because of editorial decisions. And they own those characters the right to make whatever editorial decisions they want to. Like, I got it. Like, I said in the room, we should just make the Walking Superman its own deal and let us finish this story that we've been building. And there was such a thirst from higher ups at editorial, who shall remain nameless, to cut it off and be done. And
again, you got Rockstar sci-fi writer JMS coming on Superman. It's going to be a big deal, and I agree with you. It would still be a big. You guys introduced again a reassessment initially of Zod. Well, wait a minute. Maybe he's not the big bad we thought he was. The relationship between Allura and Kara was fantastic because, and I mean, it broke my heart when you guys killed off Zor-El, Kara's dad. But it just really, it gave you guys a good opportunity to examine this mother-daughter relationship. And all of a sudden, Allura, who never had agency, I think, prior to your guys' run, and now all of a sudden she's a three-dimensional character, and it's like, well, she was there, so you can't just dismiss her of, well, you're wrong, he's the bad guy. And it's like, again, she was an adult. I mean, even Kara at Argo City, being a teenager and stuff, it still doesn't have the perspective of an adult woman who was a Zod believer.
The thing we always said was, like, everything Superman knew about Zod, he learned from a Jor-El hologram. Like, everything he knew about Zod. And in Last Son, Jeff addressed a lot of that stuff of, like, oh, Zod's a bad guy, and, like, underscored Zod's a bad guy. And it's like, well, in the context of that story, yes, but moving forward with him being a general, he was a bad guy because he was in the Phantom Zone. I nearly dropped an F-bomb, but I didn't. He was a bad guy because he was in the Phantom Zone, and then he comes out and there's all this stuff with Chris Kent and Ursa and all that stuff. But if you take him out of that context and you put him back at the head of a Kryptonian army, and now he's fighting for his people, just like Sam Lane, xenophobe Sam Lane is like, we have to murder these aliens to save our people. Zod says we have to defend ourselves from the aliens to save our people. Absolutely. And you've got two diametrically opposed military forces suddenly at odds with the sun in between them and Superman and Supergirl caught in the middle. That's drama. And that's interesting. And that was the drive of those 2.5 years of Superman Supergirl stories, watching these two incredibly militaristic minded humans moving chess pieces across the board and seeing what shook out. And then finally one wins the war, quote unquote, and one loses the war and then retaliates. And that was the War of the Supermen, was Lane finally putting his stuff in play and Zod's retaliation. And again, our main characters butting heads because they're literally caught in the middle of these two chess masters. And that was what was fun about that whole story. It was like we would meet every week on Wednesday on the phone, and we would talk out what's the next 5 months of story, where are the chess pieces going, who's doing what. Nightwing and Flamebird sort of were off on their own path, doing a very mythologically based version of fighting that war. Supergirl was dealing with her mother and/or being a pawn. A mother. I mean, for all intents and purposes, Supergirl gets used as a pawn by Allura in a way that that the Supergirl comics had never really explored. Like, I think I can name on one hand the Allura-centric Supergirl stories prior to New Krypton, and they're few and far between. One's in the 60s and one's in the 70s. They're very far apart, and it's always like a one-off 10-pager in Adventure Comics. So we got to really explore a character who had never historically been explored. I wish I had done more. Like, I wish we'd done an Allura miniseries of just seeing what it's like when you're in charge of a planet. It's a thing that we talked about. DC at the time was not looking for more spin-offs out of New Krypton, so we kept it very contained. I think I got to do one Allura-centric issue, and it was sort of my thesis statement on, like, why is she this way, and what is the thinking behind using Supergirl as a secret weapon. And then I got to do the reverse of, how does Supergirl feel about all of the stuff that Allura is doing?
Absolutely.
So that time was so fun, man. Like, that book, again, Supergirl and Superman and the Flash are my 3 favorite fictional characters of all time. And so getting to do a deep dive into Supergirl and her mythology, and by extension Superman, but primarily I was the Supergirl writer of that time period. Getting to do those deep dives was like, it gave me a lot of life at that point, and it really helped put me on a map creatively, because people were seeing Supergirl stories they'd never really seen before. There was a period in that character's life in the early 2000s where she was very much a sex bot character, and we worked very hard to pull her out of that take.
Yes.
And make her like a teenager, you know, the maiden of might or whatever. Like, she was the teenager of steel. Like, we tried to like make her more of a standalone character in the context of all the Superman stuff. Like,
100%.
You can only take her so far out of the Superman stuff because she's part of that world. But we worked really hard to like change the tone of her stories.
No, people go back to the library of Word Balloon. You'll hear Sterling and Jamal talk about that, and how they really did want to make her more of a real teenager and away from, you know, the hottie that she was portrayed as. Ange C., who I met again just last month at Terrificon, and is a massive Supergirl fan, and has a lot of,
he runs a website. He runs a Supergirl box commentary.
Absolutely. So many great Supergirl moments. A New Krypton, Death of Allura still haunts me. Those are among his comments that are here in the chat.
Do I have access to the chat? Can I see the chat? I don't know that I can.
You should be able to, man. It should be able to be there on the right side. But
comments.
you know.
Okay, now I can see it.
Yeah,
Great.
so you hear that your stuff is being reprinted. High watermark for Supergirl, especially Bizarro Girl. So yeah, there's that.
That's great.
Landon wanted to know your thoughts on how Kara is being written currently in Mark Waid's World's Finest.
I love that take. The Supergirl Robin date issue is one of my favorite single issues in recent comic book history.
Sure.
One of the things they've done with Supergirl since, I mean, all those years ago, is they've really worked to age her up and mature her a lot. You see it in Tom King's stuff and you see it in Mark's stuff. Like, they've worked very hard to make her a 20-something-year-old in a way that we were never really allowed to. Like, she was, I mean, let me tell you, I had to have many conversations with editorial about doing a Supergirl birthday issue because that ages up the character. And it's like, okay, but comics you can do a Simpsons episode where it's Bart's birthday and it doesn't change Bart Simpson.
Yeah,
why can't you do birthday issues with these characters? And I think the start of Woman of Tomorrow is like Kara's 21st birthday, and now they play her as, in the comics, they play her as she's a 20-something-year-old, and she's figuring out her life as an early 20-something-year-old, whereas when I was writing her, she was very much a 17-year-old. And like, I think in Loeb's version, which was a few years before me, she was 15-ish. And then she's
Supergirl from Krypton with Michael
Mike Turner.
With
early Mike Turner, right? Like
Mike
Superman.
Turner, yeah. Great Superman Batman miniseries. That
I think they played her as a 15-year-old, and then she was 16 years old for the first chunk of her issues, and then we aged her to 17. And I think by the time I left the book, we just said she's 17 years old. And now they've aged her into her early 20s, which allows you to tell different types of Supergirl stories.
Sure.
It feels a little less, and I mean no harm here, it feels a little less skeezy if you want to make Sexpot Supergirl a story and she's someone in her 20s. If that's the choice you make, great. Sure. It feels less weird than I open a book about a 16-year-old and she's bent over a pool table, like, in a short skirt. Like, that was very much a product of 23 years ago. I don't know that you would do that necessarily now.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, my God, and listen, Mike Turner, great artist, wonderful artist, sad loss and everything. But you can see her underwear. I mean,
she's naked the whole first issue. Like,
I forgot about that.
And it's like a riff on Splash, and I understand that it's a riff on a famous movie.
Yeah,
but like, she's a 15-year-old naked, and like the metric I always used was like, is my mom gonna feel embarrassed for me to read this story? Yeah. And if she opens up an issue and it's a 15-year-old naked running around, I think my mom would have issue with that. So we worked to pull her out of that version.
I'm with you, man.
So
Absolutely.
it's, you know, and we had our detractors. We had people that wanted her to stay sexy Supergirl, and like,
Sure.
okay, you've got all those issues. They're still in your like short boxes. Like, enjoy. We're
Sure.
doing a different version of that character, and so
Yeah, I get it. Absolutely.
yeah. And you know, go ahead.
I was going to say B things. I became a fan of Supergirl with the TV series. So older comics have sometimes been hard to come by. I look forward to reading your run with the new collection releases. Absolutely, man. And, you know, again, the great thing was all that stuff dovetailed into what you ended up doing in TV. And also, before we get to TV, I mean, there are all the various iterations. And folks, if you know, let's not forget Sterling, you know, spent years on the Flash TV series, one of his favorite characters. And, you know, also was on the Supergirl TV series as well, the great Melissa Benoist. Benoist or Benoit?
It's Benoist.
It is Benoist. Okay, like moist. Okay, Benoist. But yeah, man. And also, I don't know if James has penned a year on new Supergirl that we'll get next year. And we got her cute little cameo in the movie and stuff. I think she was great, and I really did love Party Girl Supergirl. And I look forward to how we get from that, hangover Supergirl that we got at the end of the movie, the Superman movie, to Tom's Women of Tomorrow story. And my suspicion is, as much as the plot might follow that Woman of Tomorrow story, that we're going to see this kid grow up and have to deal with some real consequences, as opposed to partying on Rigel 7 or where that
it feels pretty Rigel 7. That's a Star Trek planet.
Damn right it is.
My suspicion is her coming back to get her dog is in the middle of the Supergirl story, is my suspicion.
Interesting. Sure, maybe
like later, and we'll see her get back to Earth and see that scene from her point of view.
Sure, maybe.
I have no inside knowledge on this one.
That's great, man. No, that's a good idea. But yeah, I want to know your thoughts real fast about, before we get into Flash and some of the, and also a really cool movie that Sterling made recently that we'll talk about. But yeah, thoughts on the various Supergirls we've had over the years. There's Helen Slater, of course.
Classic, yeah.
Absolutely.
Like, I tell that story a lot in interviews, but like one of my earliest memories of seeing movies in general is watching Supergirl with Helen Slater on VHS tape. Like, like my parents, God bless them, I was very much raised by the television and by comic books, and like they would just pop me in front of a TV and turn it on and walk away, and that has happened to a lot of children of that era. But I distinctly remember being at a party that my parents were at, and they put all of us kids in front of the TV in a VCR, and they turned on the Supergirl movie. Wow. And I was just enchanted by Helen Slater, and thought she was and the movie is whatever. The movie is what it is, and it's very much a product of the early 80s, and they really leaned into sort of the magical girl angle of that style of fairy tale brought to life storytelling. The international cut's a little more cohesive, but it's hard to track down. But I think Helen Slater shines in that movie. I
completely agree. Yeah, I thought she was great.
More so than like Hart Bachner or Faye Dunaway or any of the other people that were in that movie.
Peter O'Toole,
like, you know, and his scenes do not make sense at all. Like, it's a tough watch to watch as an adult. As a child, the sort of magical realism thinking of that movie was awesome. Super amazing. I get it. I was so hard in the book. At that time, DC was not allowed to use anything the Salkinds had developed, which included Zod, Ursa, and Non. Because Donner did those books with Jeff, they opened up the Salkinds catalog, and Zod, Ursa, and Non were suddenly in continuity. And I said, great, I want to put Zoltar and the Omega Hedron and all that stuff in continuity. Like, let's do it. Like, we're back, baby. And we got a very nice email back from the Salkinds and saying no. So we created a character called Zoltel that is very similar to Zoltar, but is not the same character. And we created the Alpha Hedrons, which helped power the new Krypton blah, 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 blah machine. And that was just, it was necessity because I wanted to use those concepts and those characters, and we just weren't allowed to. I think Selena, who was Faye Dunaway's character, shows up in Steve Orlando's run, I want to say. Like, I think they've opened, Helen was the only good thing about that movie. I mean, the score is pretty great. Jerry Goldsmith, come on. And the costume is classic. I mean,
God, yeah. Oh, no, she looked great. She was great.
It laid the foundation of every future live action Supergirl production. So like, I give that movie a lot of credit. It is not everyone involved, including Mark McClure and the poor lady who played Lucy, whose name escapes me. Like, everyone involved did their best. It's just the movie is not. The movie suffers from being a magical realism superhero movie in the early 1980s, and that comes with a lot of question marks. And there are so many scenes that don't really lead into each other. There's a giant monster in the Phantom Zone that never really plays out. Like, there's so many things that don't add up to something like a standard movie. But in terms of the magical realism, it all works. It's fine. Yeah. What it gave us was, I am Kara Zor-El of Argo City. I am a superhero and I have no, like that classic line, like, it gave us a strength for that character to come from that every on-screen iteration has embodied and writ large. So
great. You know who one of the bright spots of the Flash movie was this Supergirl or woman, however you want to put it. But yeah, I thought Sasha was really, really great. And again, if there was any wrinkle from that, and of course it was great seeing Keaton back as Batman. Yeah. But yeah, those were really, to me, I'll be honest, not a fan of the movie.
Are you ready for your exclusive scoop on the Flash movie from Supergirl writer Stephen Gates?
Well, and a Flash TV writer, so by all means, tell me.
I was the Supergirl consultant on that movie.
Oh my God, I didn't realize, man. Well done.
I met with Andy and Sasha and had a very nice couple Zooms with them and sent them a bunch of comics and like pointed them towards what I think is the most iconic version of Supergirl. Wow. Sasha played a very different version, obviously, because of the nature of that story. But like, it was really fun to talk to them about what I believe in that character and why I believe what that character represents and why I believe that. So it was really fun to be like tangentially connected to that movie. I did not get a special thanks or on-screen credit. I don't care. Like, to say that I got to consult on the Flash movie about Supergirl is such like a joyful thing for me. And yeah, I thought she was one of the best parts of that movie, hands down. So, and I thought her performance was amazing. I was ready for the movie that came after starring her as Supergirl. That is obviously in the post James Gunn DCU, like that's not going to happen. But like, I thought she was phenomenal.
Jerry Stokes wanted to comment regarding JMS leaving in his story being prioritized and then leaving after 4 issues. Well, here's my editorial comment, Jerry. I agree with you. I really felt not only him and you know something, he, in fairness to JMS, he was going through blindness and thought he was going to be permanently blind. We didn't know that at the time. If we did, we would have certainly given him a lot more sympathy at the time. And I certainly am glad that subsequently I had a fantastic interview with him, met him a couple times. And I think everything's cool now. But regardless, not only that, this wasn't, I don't know if it was in his deal or not, but taking Superman and Wonder Woman off the table for the other books and requiring whoever was writing Justice League at the time, if it was James or whomever, you know, you can't use Superman because JMS is using him. No, you can't use Wonder Woman because JMS is using him. And then to abandon it, Chris Robertson took over that Superman story. Phil Hester took over the Wonder Woman story. It was a mess, and it's disappointing. And also, none of it stuck. So again, well, congratulations, editorial. You chose poorly, as the Templar Knight told us in Indiana Jones.
To Chris's credit, I thought he made he did a incredible job shoring up that Superman story, and we got some really good Chris Robertson writing out of it. And I appreciated those issues a lot.
Angie's right. I thought it was Dwayne McDuffie. I wasn't certain, but yeah,
that seems so long ago. I mean, that's like 15 plus. Yeah. Like it's so long ago. But yeah, like I again, in hindsight, 2020 of now, they could have just made a miniseries, and it could have been 6 issues, 12 issues, whatever, and like we could have finished all of what we were doing, and then whatever happened. But hindsight, again, editorial was at war in 2010, and it was a very tumultuous time. And then on top of all of that, that was 2010, and then 2011, New Krypton New 52 starts. So all the books just went away, and then we had all new everything was different. So who knows, even if we had done those stories, who knows what would have stood, because suddenly continuity restarted.
Yes.
And then 5 or 6 years later, you had DC Rebirth, which restarted continuity and tried to fold in all the versions. And like DC continuity, as a DC kid, has been very tough to follow the last 15 years,
to say the least.
Is it? Yeah. Again, I'm being very politic about it, but like, it's my favorite fictional universe, and even I have trouble sometimes parsing out what is happening, when it's happening. Like now, Supergirl in the books, every story has ever happened in the books, and okay, so she was a soap opera star, and then she was a camera person for a movie, and then like all that stuff happened. That's hard to wrap my head around, because there have been 5 different iterations in the last 25 years.
I'm with you.
Like it's very tough sometimes, but that's the nature of comics, and that's the nature of this type of serialized storytelling. You're always going to have to, there are so many websites that are super helpful for. That was one of the conversations I had with Andy Muschietti and Sasha, was like, they had read the wiki, and the wiki for Supergirl is very tough to parse, because you're dealing with 70 years of continuity, trying to filter it all down into one movie with one character who has conservatively 15 scenes. And that can be very tough. And so like part of what I tried to do as a consultant was just like lead them into, here are the successful versions. There she is. And that costume is so good.
I love the costume. Absolutely. And I even love the choice, as opposed to traditional Supergirl being blonde, that and again, different circumstances and different Supergirl.
I thought she was amazing. I mean, I can't say enough good stuff in her performance. Melissa as well. Like Melissa is incredible.
So great.
Milly, I'm excited to see where Milly goes, and we only had one scene with her, so I can't. It is what it is. But Melissa, like she gave it her all on that show, and really, I think, set up a new generation of Supergirl fans.
In your CW TV years, were you a story editor at both Flash and Supergirl, or
I was a freelancer on Supergirl? Like they hired me. They literally called me in to say, "Can you co-write one episode?" I had done at that point Adventures of Supergirl, which was the season 1 comic book
tie-in
adaptation.
Of the CW interpretation. Absolutely. Yeah. And
they really liked that book a lot.
Oh, that's great.
They also, season 1, they had used a lot of my comics and the relationships in the comics as their pitch material for the show, especially the Supergirl versus Cat Grant dynamic. And that became the thrust of season 1. Like that plus Devil Wears Prada equals Supergirl season 1 in a lot of ways. And so they had hired me to do a comic book crossover, and I got to go to their offices, and they had just cut whatever the Red Tornado episode is in season 1. They had just gotten like the director's cut, and so I got to sit with them at a mix and watch that early episode, and I was like, oh my god, you got chef's kiss, like what a show. And that's the one where she's like screaming in rage and does a supernova and like blows all her powers out. And then the next episode is Human for a Day, which is an amazing episode. I was in like a big fan of that version of that character, and they were shooting in LA. And so I, having just done the comic, was like, can I go to set? Like you're shooting at Warner's, which is just like up this, can I go to set? And a lot of emails later, they were like, yes, go to set. So on my birthday of that year, I have a picture of me and Melissa, like on my birthday in front of her ship in the DEO, set. And so I was like, I was a big fan, and the showrunner of Supergirl knew that. And, we had a lot of conversations about the book when I was doing it. And then in season 2, I got a kind of a random email that was just like, would you be interested in co-writing an episode? And my response was like all caps, like, ah, and then all the exclamation marks. And then I was like, yes, absolutely. And then I hit send. And then 10 minutes later, I was like, oh my God, that was so unprofessional. I'm like, absolutely. I would love to write an episode of your television show. That sounds like such a lovely time. When can I be there? What am I doing? Like,
yeah, but you were part of the family already, being with your Flash experience, correct? Or did Flash come after?
No, Flash was after, like
Oh, I beg your pardon. Okay.
4A. And then he wrote back like, what do you know about Mixes Pitalik? And I was like, ugh, everything. And so my first day in that writer's room as a freelancer, like they were, I would think I was episode 213 and 212, episode 12 of season 2, 212, had just been thrown out. And so they had to redo that episode. And so showrunner comes in and goes, Sterling, tell me every kind of kryptonite. Start at the beginning. And I was like, oh, okay. And I just rattled off. And like I'm getting into like jewel kryptonite and like white.
Damn right you are.
And I'm looking around the room and everyone's just staring at me. And I'm like, do you guys not know this stuff? And Derek Simon, who's this incredible writer, leans over and goes, no one knows that stuff but you, buddy. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I see how I'm useful. And so
that's like Jeff was in Smallville.
And so 212 became like they go into Luthor's vault and discover all these like weapons to fight Supergirl. And like I made the list of the weapons to do, like I was part of that writer's room helping them break that story. And then they turned, a week later, it was like, okay, now we have to break 213, Mixes Pitalik. And then we just started breaking 213. And I was there for a month and I kept coming back every day till finally they were like, okay, your script is done. I can't afford to I can't pay you to keep coming back, but like, thank you for your time. And like, that was Thanksgiving, I think. And then my episode aired and everyone liked it except for the internet. And the internet blamed me for a lot of things that I had nothing to do with in that episode and stuff that I didn't write. It will hound me to my dying day that people thought I wrote that line about being a misogynist on Daxam, and I did not write that line at all. For the record. But then I got a phone call in April of that year. And season 4 of The Flash was going forward, and would I come join the Flash writers room? And so I joined in April of 2017. And then I was in that writer's room until the pandemic, April of 2020. So It was three years of my life working on the fastest man alive. And and it was like, what a joy.
Sure.
That show, like that show. It was my then favorite TV show. Season 4, that costume in season 4 is so good. What a good costume.
No, and Grant was excellent. And again, that might be no disrespect to Ezra. Ezra's had personal issues, and I respect. It is what it is. I just never warmed to their portrayal of Barry. I like Grant's Barry being grounded a little more, and I also understood the thinking for the film version of Barry because he's fast, he's hyper. Of course, he's what I get it. His mind moves as quickly as he does. I get it. But I just never warmed to it, even in Batman v Superman and the Justice League movie, let alone Ezra's own solo movie or a duo movie playing. Yeah, That's why when we had two different versions of the same actor and character, I'm like,
the conversation that I always had, and again, no shame to their game. I always felt like the Flash movie was a sequel to a movie that we'd never seen, and the audience, their reaction is confusion for a lot of it because they're referencing stuff that happens in a story we haven't. He opens the window and goes, lightning came through this window. And like, again, if my mom's the barometer, my mom has no idea how Barry Allen got powers. And so they open the window and lightning's going to come through and it's going to hit you. We the audience need to see the first version of those events. Yeah. And it felt like they were just leaping forward. No offense to our friends at Warner Brothers or DC. It just felt like they leapt forward too far for an audience to get excited for in a way that the Superman movie does not do, right? Like,
I agree. I absolutely agree.
The Superman movie at least gives you enough context, and we have seen Superman and Krypton and all that stuff.
Right, a million times.
Dozens of times across our lifetimes.
80 years.
The Flash is not the same.
Correct.
His origin story is not one that people instantly know,
No.
regardless of the millions of humans who watch the Flash TV show, and we thank them for their viewership. So it's a tough ask when you're trying to duplicate the origin story that we don't know, and it leaves a lot of people with just question marks in their brain. I'm just like, what has happened? Why is he doing this? And it's expecting you to buy into Barry's story, and we haven't seen Barry's story, and that was always, to me, the toughest jump. I know Barry Allen's story. Like I have framed in my office the panel of him being struck by lightning from showcase number 4. I got it blown up on a big canvas.
Oh, fun.
It's my all-time favorite panels. I understand Barry Allen's origin story. The common person walking into that movie just did not.
No, and in fact, that's what I think it has suffered and made Thunderbolt suffer at the box office. And even FF, as big as and important as FF is to the Marvel Universe, it's not Superman. It's not Batman. It isn't Spider-Man. I mean, Wolverine, thankfully, has had a lot of good movies and good success with them when it was happening. But no, it's a big ask, even though we 20 years ago got the first, Tim Story FF movie and the sequel and everything. No, so I get it. And also, again, the strike, the pandemic, streaming, people being comfortable watching movies at home rather than theaters.
It's all going to affect everything. The FF movie, they at least gave you sort of a montage, an origin montage that, like, okay, now I'm kind of up to speed.
Yes.
The Superman movie, it's got the text, like, here's what happened. I really believe that, like, we are trained to enjoy superhero origin stories because we get new ones constantly. Hugh Jackman being the through line of Wolverine is why people like that version of Wolverine. We've invested 25 years of our lives in Hugh Jackman's Wolverine.
Yep.
The last 25 years, how many Supermen have we had? A lot.
4, 5,
The answer is a lot. And so, but every time they've done one, we've seen Krypton and the Rocket and Monpac. So we know that stuff. So skipping over that was like, oh, I accept that we skip over that. Barry Allen has had one TV show for 9 seasons successfully. Not everyone watched The Flash season 1. So expecting everyone to buy into his origin is tough.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the audience had a very tough time coming into that movie. And again, there's stuff in that movie that I love. There's stuff in that movie that I don't understand. The audience, I think the general audience, was not ready for a sequel to a movie that we hadn't seen. And that's my, like, theory on the Flash movie. Again, apologies to our friends at Warner Brothers. Like, I have thoughts. I'm
up. Before we leave Supergirl, Landon wanted to know thoughts on Sophie Campbell's current run.
It's great.
Yeah,
it's great. It's it's such a different tone from what Supergirl stories have been told recently. Like Woman of Tomorrow versus Sophie Campbell's Supergirl are very different tones. But I love her art. Like, I think her art's phenomenal. I haven't read this week's issue yet. I guess they introduced more super pets, and God, I love the super pets. I've enjoyed it.
No. Hey, man, well, yeah. I mean, honestly, before we leave Supergirl, a little shout out to Kurt Swan and Jim Mooney, who were doing yeoman work during the Silver Age with the Girl of Steel. And there's Comet right there in the circle. I missed the the old 80-page Giants.
I love her throwing darts into Superboy's chest. Like, that's hilarious.
Yes. See, audio audience, this is why you got to watch the show, because then you do get little bonuses like some of the visuals that I put up like this. No, that's great, man. Regarding the Flash, one of your episodes actually made a best of the year list, which is really great. So tell us about that episode.
Todd Helbing and I wrote an episode called Inner Flash Time, and it was in season 4. It's the one that always is like, people are always like, oh, it's the one with a nuclear bomb. And, like, essentially a nuclear bomb goes off. The Flash goes into what we called on the show Flash Time, which is when he's moving at super speed and everything's frozen, right? And so we did an entire episode where the pressure is on for Barry to figure out how to stop a nuclear bomb. And it's one of the things I'm proudest of on that show, that episode. And we did the first Ralph Dibny episode. Thomas Pound and I wrote episode 404, which I think is called An Elongated Journey into Night.
I believe that's right. Yes, I was reading your IMDb, and I think that's what it said.
And then the Crisis episode is like, those are the 3 episodes that I point to as like, I'm infinitely proud of this work because these were really hard episodes to do, but we got really good hours of television out of it. Flash Time was a challenge because how do you keep the tension going? How do you write it in such a way that it doesn't break the show, where from that point on, every villain he ever fights, you're like, why isn't he moving at super speed in the same way he did in Flash Time? And the answer was always, well, because at Flash Time, it's at its most like, the pressure is at its highest, so he's moving at his fastest. And then he brings along Jesse Quick, and he brings along Jay Garrick. To work with John Wesley Shipp. And John Wesley Shipp is the greatest human being. He was so kind to me. It was such a dream to write him as Jay Garrick and then to later get to write his final scenes as Flash 90 in Crisis was such an incredible experience for someone who idolized that Flash TV show in 1990-91.
Yeah, absolutely. My God, yes.
John Wesley Shipp went from being the Flash in 1990-91 to the dad in the Neverending Story 2, and the Neverending Story is one of my all-time favorite movies.
Oh, I didn't remember that, but I know his next TV dad role, of course.
And then he was the dad on Dawson's Creek. And so like every turn I was like, I love this man. I love this man. I love this man. And then he was the dad in Flash season 1. And I'm like, oh my God. And then he's Jay Garrick. And it's like, okay, now we're talking. Amen. And I got to write some really incredible scenes with him as Jay Garrick. And then thankfully we decided to do Crisis on Infinite Earths, which for my money and probably for the internet's money is the biggest television crossover of all time, because we crossed over 21 different DC properties, animated film, television into 5 episodes.
Yep.
And we got to put a final note on John's Flash from the 90s. And shooting that scene is one of the most emotional days I've ever had on a set.
Wow. Cool.
Because again, when I was 9 years old, this man and this character was my idol. Like, I loved that show so much. And to have the opportunity to be on set, I am so thankful that I got to be a part of not only writing the episode, but being on set and watching him. He performed it across 2 different days. And the first day, and it was with a few days, weekend separating those 2 different days.
Okay.
At the end of the first day, sorry, I've gotten way off from Flash Time.
This is fantastic. Please continue.
At the end of the first day, his cowl, Grant's cowl went backwards, and John's cowl came forwards. So he pulls the cowl off forwards, and he sits down in the chair next to me, and I'm like, "How do you feel? Like, you just shot like part 1 of your final scene as this character?" And he goes, "Numb. I just feel nothing. I don't know how to feel right now." And I'm like, "Okay." And I said, "Well, here's the thing. Like, we've shot you out for the day. We've wrapped. Let's come back next week and let's talk about it." And he goes, Yeah. I'm gonna have to really figure it out. And I think he went back to New York and spent some time in New York and came back on the Tuesday or whatever. And it was his like that. The part 2 of that was him like sucking the like plot wise, he like sucks the energy from Grant, and then he gets on the thing, and then he like screams as he's running or whatever.
The cosmic treadmill, absolutely, man.
Oh my God! And how cool was that?
The cosmic treadmill, man, is on TV, absolutely. Well,
along with, like the antimatter cannon we got to build, like all that stuff.
You know, people who only experienced John Shipp's Flash on DVD, and if you're catching reruns, and even his portrayal in Crisis and everything else, and as Jay Garrick, you guys don't understand. I was, out of college in 1990, when that Flash TV show aired, and it was coming off the heels of the Tim Burton Batman movie, and it was like, and the costume looked so great.
And Danny Elfman did the opening theme song. Danny Elfman, Shirley Walker did some amazing.
Shirley Walker, who also worked on the Batman animated series.
Yes.
It really was like, we were all excited. And then, sadly, CBS just messed with the show, and they would preempt it for the NCAA. And I believe the first Iraq War was happening when the show was airing, so it would get preempted for special news reports. And it was such a shame. I mean, we had Hamill as the trickster, and I'm glad he came back.
Oh my
and all
god!
that. But yeah, I mean, it's such a shame that that thing barely made it through its first two. It's only 2 seasons.
Well,
So
Danny Bilson, who co-created the show with Paul,
that's
DeMeo,
where I was going. Yep.
they came in. Danny came into the Flash right. Paul DeMeo passed away sadly a few years ago.
Wow. Okay.
Danny,
I had Danny and Paul on the show early on in Word Balloon and everything.
Paul passed away in 2018. I want to say. I mean, it's been a few minutes. It's been a few years.
Wow.
Danny came in and had lunch with all of us, and we were talking, and he said, the show in 1991, a CBS executive at the after party or whatever pulled me aside and said, "Hey, I just want you to know my boss is the reason your show got canceled, and he canceled it because if he brought the overall budget for the season in under a certain number, it triggered a $3 million bonus for him. So like, you're losing your show, so this one guy can have $3 million. So sorry."
Hey, thanks a lot. Way to go, Network TV.
Network TV in 1991, man. Like, what the heck? What a shame. So,
but I told John, I got to meet him at Terrificon. He's really good friends with Ned Chalik, the owner of Terrificon. Man, I'm like, dude, that is so great, and it's so great that the powers that be were smart enough to not only make you Barry's dad, but also then to bring you in as Jay. I'm like, and it's so I have a picture of me and him, and we're both doing the pose, the running pose. Awesome. And of course, I was a fat ass at the moment. I'm proud to say I've lost 50 pounds since that.
Oh, good for you. That's great.
Thanks, buddy. Another 25 and I'll be happy. I'll be in my fighting weight. I got a title fight coming up. I got to be ready for it.
The gauntlet's been thrown. 25 more pounds.
I'll get there. Oh no, I'll get there. But yeah, he's
probably
such a prince. Do you? All right. Well, and I was just going to say, what a great comeback, not only within the CW and the Flash show, but he makes those Lifetime movies.
Yeah.
And it's so, because really, I know he had a very personal, rocky time post Dawson and really had to kind of get his life back together again. And I'm so glad he did. And I told him that. And he's, like you said, he's the most appreciative, generous soul. And it's so great. And yeah, you like it when there are positive Act 2s and Act 3s in people's lives.
I mean, anymore, I think everyone's career has those rocky periods. I post-pandemic, like my career has been all over the place. Like the pandemic was really a dividing line between me working steadily to like not, and if someone wants to hire me to write some comics, John's got my email.
It's true.
John Wesley Shipp. So we were shooting part 2 of Flash 90's like Demise. He's had time to think about it.
I'm sorry. Yeah, please.
We had a great director on that episode, a guy named David McWhirter. McWhirter is helping him, like kind of coaching him through the running. I mean, we have a stunt double for him because like that cosmic treadmill, they could crank it up to 17 miles an hour. I mean, he's legit. He and/or the stunt person are full tilt running as fast as they
can. Look like it.
And so we're coaching him through his like thing, and in the script it says he screams as he evaporates, and McWhirter's like takes him to the one side and kind of coaches him through. And then I come over, I'm like, okay, what are we thinking? And John goes, I got it. Don't. And so we use the stunt guy first just to get him up to full speed. And then we have John, and then we're on him tight and we're pushing in as he does the scream, and he like screams. And it's a closed set. It's loud. It's kind of echoey. He screams so loud, he maxes out all the volume.
The BU meters on the sound. Yeah. Absolutely, man. I'm a radio guy. Yeah.
And we ramp the thing down, and he comes off, and it's like, do we want to go again? And McWhirter's like, I don't think we're gonna get better than that. So like, let's call this good. We've wrapped him for Crisis on Earth's huge applause. Everyone freaks out, and then he comes off and he pulls the cowl off. And he sits down in the chair, and I come and I sit down next to him. I'm like, so how do you feel? And he goes, complete. And I'm like, oh, great.
Nice.
And he goes, I had a lot of time to think about it. And I really genuinely think like this is, I go out saving the multiverses, saving my friends. And like, what an amazing way to go out. And I said, yeah, that's why we wrote this for you to do this like this. Like you came back in the Elseworlds crossover, and now you get to complete your story. And he stood up and he patted me on the shoulder, like, And he's like, Sterling, thank you for everything. And I legit got teary, and he stood back. He stood back and he goes, Captain, thanks for everything. And he turns and walks away. And then the pandemic hit like 4 months later. And then the episode aired. And like he messaged me on Twitter and was like, thank you again for everything. When I watched it and it cuts to Tina, I got teary. And I'm like, well, that means the freaking world to me, because you were my Flash when I was 10 years old or however old I was. Like you were the guy, the hero. So for you to feel like you got to complete your story and like you were like that was always my hope and always my goal. And like what a joy to get to be with you and help you through that emotionally as an actor, but also like just to get to hang out with you. And like, I have a picture of me and him in the costume and all that, like just to be able to like fulfill my childhood dream means so much to me.
I get it.
And like, what a joy. Like, I can't say enough good stuff about shooting that episode. Like that episode, as it turns out, Crisis, super freaking hard to make. We had one sequence on the bridge of the Wave Rider with 25 superheroes or 19 superheroes in costume. And like, it was really tough. And kudos to like David McWhorter, who directed, and Phil Chapera, who was our first AD, for like orchestrating that giant sequence. There's one thing Guggenheim will never forgive me for, and Guggenheim sort of show ran the Crisis crossover.
Yes, indeed. Absolutely, he did.
We wanted to have a reversal of the Crisis 8 cover of Kara holding Brandon Routh's Superman, and like up on like the classic Crisis cover.
Sure.
And on the day we ran out of time, and we couldn't get it. We like, there was a compromise where he kind of falls over and she's holding him and then he evaporates, and then it's Lex Luthor, and then it's a whole like the cliffhanger ending of part 3. We just ran out of time that day. And Mark has been gracious since, but at the time he was like, why didn't you guys do that? And it's like, cause we ran out of time, and we didn't want to like to rig someone up so that she can pick him up would take 2 hours. Like to do it effectively and safely, it takes time. And we just didn't have the time that day. Like
that's TV. Yeah. TV around the clock, man.
And Mark was mad for like a couple of weeks, and then I think he got over it. Like,
well,
hats off to Mark. He's he's a good friend. So
one of my favorite guys, and I'm thrilled that he's a friend, and I love talking to him as well. But truly, those CW years, they're all on Netflix, everybody, if you're not already aware, which I'm sure you are. But I've been dipping back into Legends of Tomorrow and some of the crossover stuff. And God, I'm so glad you brought up Brandon, because there was a real redemption from Superman Returns for Brandon to get another bite of the apple and get to be Superman again. And just everything about those things. And God, I mean, Mark was telling me when he was prepping and stuff. And in fact, Mitch Halleck even suggested, oh God, I forget what character. It was Robert Wuhl. And he's just like, he's the one who told Mark, he's like, hey man, you gotta get a cameo for Robert Wuhl. And he goes, yeah, you're right. And then we could bring in a Batman 89. That's a great idea. No, it was incredible. And truly, we were very fortunate for that decade or so that we went from Arrow to the windup and everything. And everything that happened with that. Black Lightning was great. I'll admit, and this is me, folks, Batwoman was a nice idea. Well, the Batwoman Crisis episode, when Kevin got to play an on-camera Bruce Wayne, was, yes, please, thank you. So yeah,
those meetings, you can imagine those meetings where it's just a bunch of DC nerds talking about who to bring in. Getting Brandon back in a Superman suit was a huge feat, and I will tell you, like, I was low on the ladder, so like a lot of decisions happened around me, and I get it. But I got to go to set and be on set to produce my episode. I wrote it with Lauren Serto, and she was on set for some of the Arrow stuff. She came from the Arrow office into Flash, and again, another lovely human being. She's an incredible writer. She was only on set for like, I think the Constantine Arrow, like all that stuff. And then I was on set for the back half of our Crisis episode. When there's a whole sequence where like Harbinger becomes the Anti-Monitor and takes down all the heroes or whatever, we wrote it as a big action sequence where Harbinger legit punches the crap out of everybody. And it ended up being, for time, cut down to Harbinger kind of makes a fist and everyone goes down. But there's a bunch of on the cutting room floor footage of her wading through each hero, like kicking the crap out of everybody. So to shoot that scene, again, 19 heroes on a set in full costume. We're doing the read through of the scene. Everyone's standing on the around the Wave Rider console right in the middle of the set, and Brandon walks in full Superman regalia, cape on, everything. And the entire set, every actor, every crew member, everyone went dead silent and turned because Superman has just arrived on the scene. And Brandon was getting his cape adjusted, and he looks up and sees everyone looking at him, and he goes, "Hi, everyone." And it was the most Superman moment, and everyone kind of swooned, and then we all kind of got back to work, and now we're like, okay, now we need to do the read through, and like we're gonna have to rig this actor because there's a wire pull and like all that stuff. But like I got like goosebumps.
Yeah.
We walked on set. The other thing that I love that we did is it's the Kingdom Come costume with the black S.
Yes, very much so.
I wrote an entire scene about why it's a black S. And then I convinced Mark to make it a yellow S at the last part in the last episode to show that he is healed.
Yes.
But we gave him better contact lenses, because if you rewatch Superman Returns, and again, no offense to someone 20 years ago, the blue contact lenses were not great contact lenses.
Okay.
Whereas if you watch the Crisis episode, his contact lenses look like eyeballs.
Interesting.
And that was such a being face to face and talking to him. I literally said, "We've given you such better contact lenses this time." And he's like, "Yeah, they feel like they're more like my eyes." And I'm like, "Okay, good. Yeah, the Superman Returns contacts look like contacts, and these look like eyeballs." And that's such a specific, weird detail, but it matters. It matters in the close-ups. It matters a lot. So
two other. First of all, Tyler Hoechlin is a fine Superman,
he's so good.
And he certainly proved it in Superman and Lois, even more so than he had already done in the CW shows. But all that said, also justice for John Cryer as Lex Luthor, as opposed to Lenny Luthor. And I was so happy for him. And also, I mean, I've seen all the interviews. He clearly was like, "Thank you," because Superman 4, has its flaws, and there are a lot of them. But it was really nice to cast him. And that scene with Tom Welling in the crossover. Oh,
one of the things I said to John was like, he was talking. He said, "I wanted to redeem Lenny Luthor, and I wanted to pay homage and honor Gene Hackman that I got to do all these scenes with in Superman 4." And I said, "John, do you realize, Gene Hackman was Lex Luthor in 3 movies for, let's say, conservatively 7 hours of time. By doing all of these episodes of Supergirl and Crisis, you've played Lex much longer than Gene Hackman ever did."
Yep.
And he was like, "No, I hadn't really thought about that." And I said, in credit to you, you're so good at being Lex. And he and the end of my episode, he pulls out the thing and he's written his name and he's like, "So what are we going to do now?" And it's like, that's like, what a machination that Lex Luthor would have, that he holds the Book of Destiny and writes his own freaking name in. Like, I was so happy we got to do that beat.
Well, and truly, and I really did. I really enjoyed both series, Flash and Supergirl in particular. But man, Supergirl really got to do a lot of fun story arcs that were homages to Superman stories, but also homages to Supergirl stories. And they were great. They really were. Oh, someone asked earlier, I think it was, Landon, from a Flash standpoint, and this is a generational thing. Who do you prefer, Barry or Wally?
In comics or television? Because television, I'm always going to say Barry, because you
worked on it.
I worked on it. I thought Grant was so incredible. I thought John Wesley Shipp was so incredible. In comics, Wally was my Flash. And in the intervening years, sort of since Flash Rebirth brought Barry Allen back on the scene, we've attributed a lot of Wally's qualities to Barry in live action.
Agreed.
And in animation, Bruce Timm, there's a lot of Barry Allen and Wally kind of crossover in the Justice League animated
100%.
stuff. But Wally was always my Flash. I tell this story a lot. When my dad died in 1998, we owned a comic book store, Sooner Books and Comics, Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Oh.
It was my dad's passion to run a comic book store. He got to run it for 9 years before he passed. And my brother and my mother and I are standing in the comic shop post-funeral, 2 days after the funeral. And mom goes, take anything you want, because we're going to sell everything for pennies on the dollar. Wow. And I started flipping through issues, and I pulled out, I'd loved the show. The show had been off the air 8 years. I pulled out Flash 100, Quick and the Dead, Mark Waid. It's Wally West has died, and then he comes back at the end, and I quote Flash. And I pulled out that issue. It's got a really cool, like, holographic holofoil cover. And I was like, oh, the Flash. God, I love that show. I should read some of these issues. And I just started pulling chunks of Flash comics out of the long boxes. And I fell in love with Wally West. And I fell in love with the Flash. Because Wally's story at that point, you know, they'd had the return of Barry Allen where Eobard Thawne is pretending to be Barry Allen, all that stuff. Wally's story at that point was, I'm taking on the mantle of someone who's no longer with us, and it's my responsibility to live up to that mantle. And as a grieving teenager, that hit hard, really freaking hard. And so Wally West became my Flash, and in my like ADHD brain, I was like, I have to collect every appearance of Wally West ever. And that became my comic collecting goal. And so I legit, like, if I ever show you my office, I'll show you a picture. I own every appearance of Wally West up until probably 2015, just because life. But like, I made a point to really honor Wally as much as I could. And then Bart came along. And again, as ADHD kid, like, Bart's journey spoke to me in a different way than Wally's did. And I became big fans of the both of them. And Jeff made Bart Kid Flash again. And it's like, oh, Kid Flash is my favorite character. Wally West or Bart, whoever has that mantle, Kid Flash is my favorite character. And I was on that train for a long time. And I was very lucky to write Bart as Kid Flash in that Flashpoint miniseries. And then when the show, like when Flash Rebirth happened, I was supposed to write the Kid Flash spinoff book. That it was me and Cully Hamner. And Cully was going to do the first 6 issues. And then, as many things happen at DC, everything got toppled and blown apart and changed. And the consolation prize was that Kid Flash Lost series that I did with an artist named Oliver Nome, who has since passed away, sadly.
Forgive me, is that the second Wally then that is like Iris's brother on the TV series?
No. This is like original Redhead, like original.
Okay, it is. Okay, good. All right. And listen, I understand TV choices and things like that, and never held it against the actor or the interpretation. But when it came to the comics, I'm like, all right, you're trying too hard. You know, I'm sorry. You've already. And again, he's still. I don't even know if in current continuity, person of color Wally still exists or not.
Well, and that's the fun of DC Comics continuity is continuity anymore. Like, it's sometimes very tough to parse, but.
Yeah. Ange wants to know if the Flash Time episode was based on a Mark Waid.
It was. Issue. I mean, kind of. Like, there's an issue, and so one of the things that I would do in the Flash writers' room is every day I would bring in a new Flash comic for us because I have a very complete Flash collection, as you can imagine. So I would just bring in random issues, and that's how we got the Samuroids. Was like I brought in the Samuroids issue and said like the Thinker should have robot samurai. And they're called Samuroids, and here's the cover. And we as a room lobbied to have, to have his robot villains be the Samuroids, to the point where I think episode 401, we do the famous cover of the Flash hanging off the samurai sword. Like we did that as an homage to that cover, but also because I just kept bringing comics into the room. And so one of the issues I brought in was Flash. I think it's 93. No, it's 96. Flash 96, 95. Someone's going to ding me for this in the comments. But like, there's a famous issue, Out of Time is the cover. And the Flash uses Max Mercury's formula to accelerate his speed to stop a helicopter from crashing. And I brought that in, and we'd already talked about, because enter Flash Time is what we used in the script to signify slow-mo Flash time.
Yeah.
we had talked about, can you do a whole episode about this, like this? And it was a very tough time in the show because our showrunner had just been replaced. Topsy-turvy, real-world stuff. You can Google it if you like. And our new showrunner said, yeah, we're doing this as an episode where all of time freezes, because we've talked about it for a few seasons, but reading this issue, it's so effective in the comics, we can do this. And so you'll notice in that episode, the bad guys are attacking Wade Airfield, and that was my tip of the hat. I tried to get Waringo's name in there. I was not successful. But it's a Wade and Ringo issue where and like having Max Mercury, we couldn't use Max Mercury, so Jay Garrick comes in, and like that was sort of the exchange, because it's not a one-to-one adaptation, right? Like you've got to work with the tools that you're given on any given version of the show. But yeah, like it was very much inspired by that story. It gave me a lot of life to be able to pitch that story as, this is from the comics. They did a version of this. What if our version is, the Eden Corps, which is from Chuck Dixon's Green Arrow run. Like they're the ones that blew up Oliver Queen in Green Arrow 100 or whatever. Like, you pull from all the DC Comics stuff and then synthesize it to make it the version you see on television, which again, to your credit, to your point, was like TV Guide said it was one of the best episodes of the year. And I was over the moon. My mom was over the moon, which is what really mattered to me. Like she has the framed article, Flash 91. So just before Impulse, because Impulse is Flash 92, right? Like
there you go.
So
yeah. But that's incredible, man. What an honor. And hey, it doesn't look bad on the resume. I mean, so we and I hope I haven't kept you long, man, because again, I appreciate the depth that we're going into and everything.
I told you before we started, you've got me for as long as you need me. Like,
buddy.
I'll talk all night.
Great. Excellent. And again, folks, if you have more questions about other stuff Sterling has written, I mean, we touched on some of the like Forever Evil and some of the other things that he's done over the years. But one new thing that he did is Just the Janitor. And yeah, man, no, you were kind enough to give me access to watch it. And this is great. Is it a full-length movie, or is it just this short 24-minute movie?
Right now it's the short.
Okay.
We're running through the festival sequence right now. We're almost done with our festival sequence. Part of the goal is, here's what we did for not a lot of money. Here's the feature script. If we have more money, we can make it on the scale of the script. We shot this. First of all, thank you for watching it. Like that means a lot.
Dude,
like, I'm glad you liked it. It's the first thing I've ever directed.
It's great. So, and you wrote it as well. You wrote and directed.
I wrote, directed, produced it. If you look at my IMDb, I directed a thing in college that is on IMDb. It is a student zombie film that in 2005 I thought was so funny to have an IMDb page, but it's student work. Janitor is the first thing I've directed as an adult. And to run it back to Flash, I would not have had the confidence to put this production together had I not produced however many episodes of Flash and watched incredible directors put together a production and make a thing. Like I got to work sort of side by side with some of, I think, the best directors in television, learning how they approach a production. And so I left the Flash in the pandemic 2020, and I was so burnt out. Listening to Greg the other day, like writer burnout is a real thing. I was so burnt to a crisp coming into the pandemic that for all of 2020 into 2021, I could not bring myself to write something. Like I was just I'd given that show everything I had. All the juice was squeezed out of me. And I wrote one comic book, like a #1 issue that no one will ever read because it's not good. But like that was all I could squeeze out across that first year of the pandemic. And then it was like my brain, like a switch in my brain literally turned on. And it's like, oh, you're ready to write something again. And what came out of that, the first thing that came out of that was the script for the short version of Just the Janitor. initially it was going to be about a retired superhero, and my brain was like, we're done with superhero live action. We're good. We've done it.
Yeah.
We've done it for years now. You're good.
Yeah.
What if it's just a normal guy? Like, what's a story? What's it like if you just tell the story of a normal guy who was a henchman for the mob or whatever? He gets the crap kicked out of him and he retires out of the life. What's the thing from Lethal Weapon I'm too old for? I'm too old for this stuff. I don't want to curse.
Yeah. Thank you.
What if it's that guy? And it's just a guy who has seen it all, has been part of it all. He's the henchman that Bruce Lee kicks out of frame in Game of Death. You know, like, what if it's that guy? What if the camera just tilts and we pan over to the guy on the ground picking himself up with a footprint in the middle of his chest? What's that? And so I wrote that script, and I wrote it in across the end of 21 into the top of 22. I had made a film in Oklahoma with some producers, a superhero indie film called The Post-Human Project. And we did that in 2013. That's a thing we can also talk about in this grand career retrospective we're doing. But The Post-Human Project, you know, we made that movie for nothing, and it did well for us and got distribution, which for an indie film made in Oklahoma for 50 grand, distribution was amazing for us.
Okay.
Those producers had always said, when you want to direct something, call us. Like, we know how talented you can be. Like, call us and we will help you make whatever you want to make.
Wow.
So Wendy Parker, Sheree Green, shout out to them. I sent them that script, and literally 20 minutes later, my phone buzzed and they were like, we're in. How do we make this happen? And I said, well, you tell me. Like, you said you're ready to make it. How do we do this? And they said, okay, we'll call you back. And within a couple of weeks, they said, okay, there's a window where you can probably pick up a lot of crew coming off of Tulsa King, which was a Sylvester Stallone show.
Oh, I'm watching it.
That shot in Tulsa and Oklahoma City. Their season wrapped, and a lot of their crew came on to Janitor with us.
Wow.
And so we were very blessed to get their crew. And then as we got closer to the shoot date, which was the end of October, now we're in casting. And here's where Melissa Benoist and John Wesley Shipp return to the story. PJ Sosko, who stars in Just the Janitor, was on a show on HBO Max called Girls on the Bus, which was Melissa's show that she had produced and made after Supergirl. It was about journalists. The book is about journalists on the Hillary campaign of 2016. The show took creative liberties and did a different version of that story. In that version, Melissa's character, I don't want to say hallucinates. She's haunted by the ghost of Hunter S. Thompson. PJ played that ghost of Hunter.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. Sure.
I think he's in 8 of the 10 episodes. I don't remember. But
okay.
We put out the casting call with the sides. He was the first person that we saw from casting. We worked with an incredible casting director in Oklahoma named Chris Freihofer. Chris sent us 26 people. PJ was number 1. I watched his audition and I was like, well, that's the guy. Like, that's anyone else isn't going to compare to whatever that performance choice is.
He gave a Lance Hendrickson vibe of like 90s Lance Hendrickson to me.
Yes. Craggy. I always joke that he's craggy. Like, he's craggy, like in the way that you want your character actor to be, a craggy dude. Unbeknownst to me, he was working on Girls on the Bus. So we put out our offer to him on a Friday. Saturday morning, my Facebook messenger goes off and it's PJ, and he says, can you call me right now? Call him on the phone. And he goes, man, I'm on this show. I don't know how to get time in my schedule to come back for your 5-day shoot. And I said, that's cool, man. No harm, no foul. Like, is what it is. Thanks for coming out to us. Like, you were so great in your audition, like A+. And he goes, well, let me work on it. Okay, cool. Keep me posted. We're 16 days out from my shoot. 6 days later, he hits me back and he's like, "Hey, have you recast me yet?" I said, "No. You said let me work on it." He goes, "Yeah, I'm still working on it. I'll give you a call next week." And I'm like, "Okay, this is getting crunchy and scary."
Yeah.
We're 10 days out from the shoot. 8 days out from the shoot, he calls me and says, "Man, I tried to get them to redo the schedule. I got to be on set for this episode. No harm, no foul. Hopefully we can work together on something." And he goes, "I actually live in Tulsa. You're shooting Oklahoma City. Tulsa is 100 miles away. I live in Tulsa now, but I've been in New York the past 6 months doing the show. Maybe we can hook up in Tulsa at Christmas. I'll see you then." Cool. 20 minutes later, he texts, "Call me right now." And so I call him and he's like, "So I was wrong. The first AD has been working with the scheduling guy and they've built me a few days off. So if you can have me on your set the first day on Saturday, I can shoot with you until Wednesday and then fly back the Friday and be back on set for Girls on the Bus." And I said, "Dude, whatever you need to do." And he goes, "Well, let me figure it out." Hang up the phone. That Saturday morning, we're 1 week out from the shoot. That Saturday morning, he goes, "Do you know the guy that used to play the Flash in the 90s? And I was like, "John Wesley Shipp? Yeah, like I just did a bunch of stuff with him." And he goes, "He's at my gym right now in New York." And I said, "Go talk to him. Like, come on." And so half an hour passes and PJ calls me as he's walking home from the gym and he goes, "That dude loves you." And I'm like, "Yeah."
Nice,
and he's like, "That dude said that if I'm going to work with you, I need to move heaven and earth to do it. So we're going to make this work." And I'm like, "Okay, great. Thank you, John Wesley Shipp. You saved my movie." And so on the Monday, we have a Saturday shoot. On the Monday, we're location scouting the school. A lot of it takes place in the school. We're location scouting the school. And PJ called and said, "We're a go. Get me a plane ticket Friday night or Saturday morning at 5 a.m. or whatever." So he did a full day shoot on Girls on the Bus till midnight, went home, slept for a few hours, got up, drove to Newark Airport, flew to Atlanta, connected, flew to Oklahoma City, and was on my set by 11 a.m. the next morning.
Wow.
And so that's how John Wesley Shipp saved my movie. Melissa Benoist played a role. And PJ he was tired. Like the first day was Kids Day. Again, we take place in an elementary school. The story for listeners, it's about a henchman who is retired from the henching life. 5 years have passed. One of his hench buddies shows up and says, "Hey, you're the janitor at this elementary school now. There's a bank across the street. We're robbing that bank. We'd like to use your elementary school as our escape route." And the janitor, to his credit, says no. And they say, "We'll give you $100,000. And he goes, "Great, I'll see you on Friday morning. Sounds awesome." Chaos ensues. And that's the 5-sentence pitch, whatever it is. And so, yeah, we shot it in Oklahoma in 22. We were in post all of 23, 24, and now we're almost done with 2025. We've been in the festival circuit for 18 months now. Maybe less than that, maybe like 15 months. We've played all over the United States, like Los Angeles, New York, New Jersey, Texas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas, Kansas. I mean, we've played I made a point to like the places we're playing are places that I know people that I can go crash on their couch and go in for the festivals and do all that stuff.
Sure.
But we've done really well for ourselves. Like people seem to really like it, and it's playing well to audiences all over the place, and which is, gratifying because it was a lot.
I think coming from TV and stuff, I think the pacing is great for being a 24-minute movie. And PJ was fantastic. Everybody in the movie is great. It's great to hear that you had a pro crew that obviously is doing great work on Tulsa King. I'm a massive fan of that show, and we're only a couple weeks away from that coming back for season 3.
Yeah, that's right.
So yeah, no. And yeah, man, that's great. And truly, I do hope that prospective studios or producers see this and see the value. Yeah, I mean, it'd be great if you guys could all get back together and make a longer movie, either that same story or a different story with the janitor.
The thing that I've kind of said all along has been like, it's the first original thing I've ever done. Like, everything in my career has been someone else's IP. And I've been very fortunate to work with these giant corporations and help elevate their IP and do really interesting work with everyone else's characters. Janitor is the first thing that is legit out of my brain and on a screen in a way that I've never had the opportunity to do in my career. Outside of, again, a student zombie film in 2004 or whatever. But it's the first thing as a professional and as an adult that like is legit from my brain on a screen for people to enjoy. And happily, it's been successful, and we've won awards at festivals and all the things, and people that have seen it really enjoy it. Everyone I've shown it to, yourself included, have been very complimentary. I'm very thankful for that. Like it's a labor of love and a passion project through and through. And like, it's been so gratifying that people are enjoying it, because it wasn't an easy story to tell. We get into some really heart-wrenching, I mean, it's criminals in a school. Like, you can imagine there are some heart-wrenching sequences, and there is a very not so subtle reference of like, this is why it's bad, as real world aspect to it, that I think if you like code it in a fiction suit, like the message goes down a little easier. But yeah, it's been very fun to do, and we want to do the feature. I'm working with a bunch of different Oklahoma productions right now. I'm from Oklahoma, and we shot Janitor, Oklahoma. The only way we were able to afford shooting Janitor was because we were in Oklahoma.
I get it. Yeah.
Every location was ultra affordable. Every rental, we paired with a Votech school called Metro Tech, and they were very gracious to supply us with cameras and lighting. And I mean, like, everyone there wanted to see us succeed, and we would not have been able to make it without the grace and the grace of the people of Oklahoma. So since I'm from there, I go back a lot. I'm working on some other productions that are there that I'd love to come back and talk to you about later.
Yeah, please.
We're talking about doing a couple movies there. There's a half-an-hour science fiction show that I'm involved with there that I'm going to have a big part in their second season. It's a lot of stuff in Oklahoma is kind of popping off right now. And we had Killers of the Flower Moon shot there, and Tulsa King, and Reservation Dogs, and there's a new Ethan Hawke show called The Lowdown that's shot in Tulsa, which is my hometown. Like, it's been very fun to see the trailers, and it's like I was there like on that corner at Christmas. What? Like, it's been very fun to watch all that stuff kind of unfold.
The democratization of television and film, and the way the other states have come and said, play in our backyard, because we'll give you the tax breaks, and we'll give you the locations, and we'll give you affordable cost to production. And it is very amazing that LA seems to have to beg for people to come back and find. I know Governor Newsom is talking about this, and the industry is talking about this, that they got to find a way of bringing their industry back, which is kind of crazy, given that it's, was in a lot of ways the birthplace of the industry 100 plus years ago. And here we are, the pendulum has turned. I mean, God, I've my friend Paul Jenkins, who I'm sure and obviously everything good that's been happening in Georgia. No, Louisiana, I know, had good tax breaks. I believe that's where Swamp Thing was shot.
Vancouver, Toronto,
and of course, absolutely.
Detroit, a lot of places have bent over backwards to pull productions in. Vancouver losing all the CW stuff changed Vancouver drastically, because suddenly you have hundreds of artisans out of work.
Yes.
Losing all the CW stuff. I mean, how many writers were employed in Los Angeles by all the CW DC superhero stuff?
Oh, yeah.
We're talking dozens, if not 100 plus people suddenly didn't have work. The pandemic changed a lot of things in our industry. The strike also changed a lot of things in the industry. And we're still trying to kind of put it all back together piecemeal. And I feel very fortunate in that I have had inroads in Oklahoma productions and have done a lot of fun stuff with Oklahoma film and television. And it's a growing industry in that state. Historically, that state has been an oil and gas industry state. That's the main.
Absolutely. Of course.
Oil, gas, education are the three things that we've been good at. Oil and gas has been really tough lately, and education has unfortunately really bottomed down in that state. I think we're ranked 50th out of 51, including Washington, D.C. So is tough times there. And so pulling TV and film productions into that state opens a lot of different doors. And I'm a firm believer that those doors need to be kicked open. And I say this all the time, that like, if the stuff happening in Oklahoma now had been happening 20 years ago, I likely would have stayed, and I would have just been in the film and TV industry in that state and done what I could to be a part of that. Obviously, that's not the case. I moved to Los Angeles in 2006, coming up on 20 years. And now I'm looking at Oklahoma going, oh, so many amazing things are happening there. How do I contribute to that? Like, how do I make sure that people get to do fun projects? And Janitor was such a fun, I mean, we opened in a giant martial arts fight, and the people, most of my crew were like, we've never done anything like this.
Oh, that's great.
We've never had the opportunity, because who wants to make an action sequence in Oklahoma?
Yeah.
We get a lot of drama. We get a lot. I mean, Kill is the Flower Moon. It's period pieces and like, you know, Reservation Dogs, which is like a comedy, and
oh yeah,
Tulsa King, which is like got some kind of action beats, but it's not one martial artist fighting 5 people.
Yep.
And Janitor, like, I think allowed a lot of people to like see the fun of shooting a giant martial arts sequence. And that was, you know, God bless Kevin Chambers, who was the main martial artist performer in that. He also choreographed that whole sequence. And he's just an incredible martial artist. And that was so fun to shoot. And we had 1 day to shoot that whole sequence. And
wow.
Yeah. We shot that fight. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it was very dynamic. It was a great way to open the movie. And it immediately gets your attention. But it is impressive that that's not a crew that's used to shooting martial arts fights. And it's very effectively done. I think you did a great job. Your camera choices as director come through, and it's a tight 24-minute story that has a lot of depth of character and great action, and it's great, man. And again, I think clearly your time writing television has kind of geared your brain to be able to tell a good story fast.
To speak to what you just said, our cinematographer is a guy named Jacob Burns.
Okay,
Jacob's an amazing director in his own right. We were very fortunate to have him.
Cool.
We were using an experimental camera to shoot that sequence, the DJI Ronin 4D, which is a typical camera is a body with a lens at the end, right?
Yeah.
This is a body with a lens on a gimbal, so it can move, and you can task it to someone's face, so you can basically have free range of motion while it's staying focused on one human. That type of lightweight steady cam was the only way we got all of that stuff shot in that
Understood.
way.
Wow.
In that time frame. We shot that fight in about 5 hours, give or take. The biggest hiccup on that fight, well, there were 2. One was we broke the bow staff. There's a sequence of the bow staff hitting PJ. We broke it, and that was a whole thing that took a few minutes to fix. The other hiccup was the young boy who's a hostage in that sequence, not to spoil it for people that haven't seen it, was meant to be an 8-year-old child with a line of dialogue who was a SAG actor. That actor could not attend that day. So the casting agency called a bunch of people, and it became a 4-year-old actor. And a 4-year-old child is very different than an 8-year-old child in an action sequence where there's, you know, tonfas and bow staffs and all these like things, swords and knives. And so he comes on set, and I called in all hands and said, we're shooting every shot that this child is in first, and we're wrapping him as fast as possible, because I need this child to not be a part of the action sequence that we're shooting. So let's change what we're doing and light for this and then go. But a lot of, you know, to your point, a lot of the tricks and stuff that I used in that sequence, I learned on the set of The Flash.
Clearly.
Every lighting choice in that sequence is a thing. We had a guy named Brenton Spencer on The Flash as a DP. Every lighting choice in that sequence was stuff Brenton had told me. And I just took every note he had to heart. And, you know, you light the entire room and then you adjust. But as long as the entire room is lit, you're not stopping and changing between every take. And that became how we, you know, that's a giant warehouse. Like, we lit a ginormous warehouse, but you wouldn't know that like we just lit all of it. And then we adjusted a couple times for different things.
Sure.
But it's mostly just work lights from LED work lights from Home Depot. And then Aperture, now we're getting into the weeds of stuff. Aperture has built lights that are magnetic on the back, and you can just click, 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 put them anywhere. And in their LED, you control them with your phone. So like all the bursts of orange in the background, those are just those Aperture clip-on lights.
Wow. Wow.
And then you shoot low, so people are dancing in and out of light. Again, a trick I learned from Brenton Spencer. And it makes it look like it's a giant, like $1 million sequence. And we shot that sequence for less than $5,000.
That's fantastic, man. The way to go.
And we shot it in 5 hours. The hardest part was we have a child on set who is not. We cut the line of dialogue and then shot out all the footage of the kid and then bounced it out. And then it was just stunts all the time. So.
I'll ask you as a TV vet. I'm concerned. I wouldn't say scared or afraid or what. Yeah, but just concerned where network television will be 10 years from now. Do you think live action drama or comedy will continue to exist on the major networks? Will the major networks even play that like they are currently? Because again, it just seems like that landscape is changing so much.
Because the landscape moves so fast now, I don't have a good answer for you.
Sure.
I think I would be foolish to try and predict where that next evolution goes.
Yeah.
You know, streaming has disrupted a lot of what we do. And it's disrupted a lot of what we make. It's disrupted revenue streams. It's disrupted ad revenue streams.
Yep.
You know, like it's disrupted syndication. Whereas like in the olden days, Arrow would run for 9 seasons and then it would run on TNT for several years. And then all that revenue would go to all the writers and actors and whatever. And
sure. Well, it was the profit for the expenditure of making 20 plus episodes till you get 100. Then you can sell it to syndication. And then a studio can reap back the money that they laid out. And yeah, that's gone now. It's insane. And also, forgive me, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Sterling, but I love that the streamers have discovered, hey, maybe we should run ads. And I love Pluto and Tubi and all of the what they call fast channels. And I always make this joke because it's true. Oh, fast means free advertising supported television, or as we used to call it, television. Yes. And also radio had learned that lesson in the 1920s. And it's just like there was just this rush to make money from a studio standpoint to get into the streaming game. And the snake ate its own tail. Mm-hmm. And it's like I truly sympathize for friends like you that are in the business and you know need this system to continue to thrive. But as far as the owners go, screw you guys. You guys blew it. You guys were greedy and were looking for fast, short money, and all you did was ruin your industry. And I don't know I wasn't expecting you to have a golden answer, because if you did, you'd be running one of these studios or networks right now. I don't think anyone has an answer of how this is all going to sort out.
No, I think that's a thing that like unfortunately we're in a time will tell. World, and we, you know, all we can do is try to make things that hopefully people want to watch, and then hopefully, I mean, that's all I can do, man. I'm more often than not, I'm a cog in a machine for the giant corporations telling these stories,
right?
And, you know, like we went on strike for very specific reasons as a writers guild in 2023, and have all of those things paid out in the way that we predicted they would. I don't know the answer. You know, I'm sure our friend Mark Guggenheim has very specific answers. I do not. Like my brain doesn't work. My brain doesn't work like that.
I hear you, man.
I hope that all of the networks continue to exist and make 1-hour television, but I also know that the reality of the next 10 to 20 years might look very different.
Yeah.
You know, losing the CW, like I said before, losing the CW to what it is now, which is a lot of golf stuff and Canadian shows. I mean, it's wild to turn because it went from being they were 6 nights a week of original programming to I don't know that there's any. I don't know if there's any, honestly.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you either, bud. I hear you, man. And again, and there's very few 5 network shows that I pay attention to. And again, my God, Tulsa King's coming back. Only Murders in the Building on Hulu is back. King of the Hill reboot on Hulu.
All on streamers that like aren't going to see. You're not going to see, and like we as the creative staff aren't going to see ad revenue in the same way that we would if CW ran an episode of Flash or Supergirl or whatever.
Yep.
Like it's cutting into us. Like, and
yes,
that's a bummer. And
yeah.
I don't have the answers. And I'm smart enough to know I'll never have the answers.
I'm hip, man. But again, you're a storyteller, and your job should just be try and tell good stories. And again, honestly, folks, I hope I don't know if you will you make Janitor available as it is now in any way. We'll
TBD.
See.
Like we're running it through the festival circuit. I don't know what its eventual home is going to be. I also, the goal is to use it as it's a self-contained story, but it's also proof of concept. Like this idea can be writ large for a few $1 million. I can make this a giant movie where we blow up the school or whatever that's going to be. The feature version's different. Like the great part about the feature script is it's a very different story than this while retaining the same DNA.
I'm with you.
And I purposely did that because we've already made the one thing. Now I want to see like what's the next evolution of that story when there's more money involved.
Yeah.
But getting funding will be a conversation, and we have to, because of the nature of our industry, we have to get stars attached, and that'll be a conversation. But it's the next big thing that I want to direct. There's a couple other things that I'm going to direct next year that are smaller scale. Like I said, there's a half-hour sci-fi TV show in Oklahoma I want to direct an episode for.
Wonderful.
And then there's a short. PJ and I have cooked up a short that we want to do together that's holiday themed. That like,
nice.
It's not the most serious thing we've ever done, but like it's the thing that we think would be fun to make over the holidays together when I'm back in Tulsa for any length of time.
Okay.
But yeah, it's finding fun partners to work with is like, that's kind of where I am right now is I just want to make stuff with my friends that we enjoy making and we want people to see. And whether that means they end up on YouTube or on Rise Flicks or EO Flicks or any of these like smaller, Amaletto is another one. Like there are a lot of platforms that monetize short films now. Where we end up is a question, honestly, for next year. Like I'm trying to get through the festival circuit. We have two more festivals this month. One is Big Bear Film Festival at the end of the month, and one
California.
is LA Comic Con. We're screening on Sunday of LA Comic Con. Sunday afternoon. There's a guy named Bill. His last name starts. There's a guy named Bill who runs this thing called Geek Fest, and his whole thing is he wants to do mini film festivals at comic conventions. And so we played Long Beach Comic Con 2 weeks ago. We played Rose City in Portland, Oregon last weekend. And then we're playing LA Comic Con at the end of the month.
That's great, man. No, that's excellent.
It's been very.
I'm aware of these. I'm aware of these smaller platforms that are great for short films and things like that. And again, it is this wonderful democratization of filmmaking that is allowing this to happen. The technology is there. The crews are getting better. And again, we're getting experienced people like yourself that cut their teeth in traditional network television. And now you can make these things. No, this is all good. It reminds me, the radio station I worked with in the 90s, the rock station, WXRT, had a great relationship with the Chicago Film Festival.
Cool.
And I saw Sling Blade, Billy Bob Thornton, the short years before the movie happened. So no, I know exactly what you're describing and stuff. And it was so great to see Thornton's vision come to life as the movie that it did. And the short is great. And I'm sure if you have the DVD, everybody, it's probably included. The short might likely be included on there. But yeah, no, it's great. And also just it has been a pleasure even since the start of Word Balloon to watch good student films made and a lot of adaptations of comic book scenes, things like that. God, I was just talking to Ben Percy earlier this year.
Oh,
And I
cool.
love Ben's short movies are really effective and everything.
I don't know that I've seen a short he's done.
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. And also, I wanted to know, because Ben has also written a lot of audio, and certainly a lot of Marvel audio in particular. Would audio drama be something you would be interested in doing?
Sure.
Just haven't thought of doing it yet, or
I mean, I actually pitched. I mean, to not to talk too far out of school, but like I actually pitched Warner Brothers a Supergirl audio drama in 2022.
Okay.
And it got up to I think we pitched Spotify, and then the project died.
Okay.
But I wanted to do a Supergirl Silver Banshee story because I thought that'd be a really fun dynamic. And we were gonna do like it was like a again, I don't know what we pitched it and they said no, so I can probably talk freely. I'm guessing, I don't know. But we were gonna do like Supergirl and Silver Banshee are teenagers in love, and they have to team up to fight Black Banshee.
Oh wow!
And Warner Brothers listened to our pitch and said thank you very much. Or Spotify listened to our pitch and said thank you very much. We're gonna do more of this David Goyer Batman stuff instead. And so that is what it is.
I've been enjoying, although it's only been the first episode, but there's a Star Trek Con prequel. Well, the events happen after Kirk is presumed dead in Star Trek Generations.
Okay.
And so Sulu is on the Excelsior. Tuvok from Voyager is an ensign on Sulu's ship.
Love it.
There's a historian that has discovered on the ruins of Ceti Alpha 5 historic documents that Marla McGivers, who was Khan's lover, and was a historian on the Enterprise before she went off with Khan. She was documenting the progress of Ceti Alpha 5 and Khan's, group. And it's great. It's fantastic. The first episode is wonderful. It's all based on, now I'm blanking on everybody's name. The director.
Did she document how they discover how those bugs make your brain?
Well, we haven't gotten to the bugs going in there.
Okay.
The director of Wrath of Khan, who Time After Time as well.
Nicholas Meyer, right?
Nicholas Meyer, absolutely. So Nicholas Meyer wrote this story to be a miniseries for New Trek, live action. It didn't happen. So thankfully, David Mack, a great Star Trek novelist and consultant on all the New Trek stuff, and Kristen Beyer adapted it into an audio miniseries. And the woman that's on For All Mankind, that is the defector that goes to Russia, and I forget the actor's name, but she's terrific. Yeah. She plays Marla McGivers. Nassim, and I forget his name, the guy from Lost, that was Saeed, the Indian, on Lost. He plays Khan. It's a great. They got Takei to come back as Sulu in his 90s. They got Tim Russ as Tuvok, and it sounds great, and it's a great story. And also, my buddy Susan Iversenberg, who you may have met, the animated Amazon, as I like to call her. She's done a lot of audio drama work as an actress and everything. I was talking to Phil Lamar, and he did a wonderful Moriarty series where he played Sherlock Holmes. And it's like, no, I'm a nerd, dude. I love old time radio, and I always have.
I have an entire shelf, like you can't, like all the Doctor Who Big Finish audios. Like
great stuff, great stuff. There you go.
That's, honestly, that's partially why I wanted to do a Supergirl audio drama, was because no one's ever done it before. A, and B, it allowed us to do a teen version of Supergirl that was like we were playing her as she was 14 or 15. And I'd never written a story in that sort of continuity where she's like at the Midvale school and then she meets the sort of bad punk rock girl, and then the bad punk rock girl turns out to have superpowers, and then they have this like really intense young love story.
Okay.
I'd never had the opportunity to write. I was co-writing it with a woman named Janet Harvey. And I'd never had the opportunity to write a story like that with Kara. And it was such a like shame that it got kiboshed, but like that's the industry. You pitch the thing and they own the characters and they say yes or no, and we were trying to partner with Spotify, and that was a whole thing. Like again, I don't think I'm talking too far out of school. This is several years ago now, so
I get it.
But like I had never had an opportunity to write that version of Supergirl, and it seemed like a really fun opportunity. You know, I don't know, man. I say it all the time of like, I will write Supergirl anytime someone asks me to. Like, no matter what, I will bend over backwards to make it work. If it's a one-shot issue, if it's a 6-page story, if it's, you know, I did a 1-page story in Love is Love, the Pulse graphic novel, solely because I said, can I write a Supergirl story to see what her reaction would be? And they're like, absolutely. And it's a 1-pager that Matthew Clark drew. Going back to Greg's reference.
Absolutely.
And I was so grateful to have that opportunity, because like, I will write her any day of the week that you ask. Like, she is one of, if not my favorite fictional character. And I still think I have a lot to say with her. I don't own that character. I don't have the opportunities to tell those stories, but I would if I'd do it in a heartbeat. You know, same with Flash, same with Superman. I'm always going to say yes if someone calls me and says, hey, you know, we want to do a Superman thing or a Flash thing or whatever. I'm always going to say yes. Like, The Flash kept me alive as a teenager. Supergirl gave me hope in my 20s. Superman has been a constant presence my entire life. I will always say yes to those characters, but I don't own them, man. And so that can get tough. That can be tough to kind of wrap your head around of like, I want to tell stories of these characters, but I can't. So I'm going to go off and do my own thing. And fingers crossed, I get opportunities like that in the future. But I have other stuff going that I'm really excited to do. You know, I said the other day to someone, like, I miss writing comics. It's my favorite art form. It's my favorite kind of writing. I haven't written a comic in almost 10 years now, because I've been so ingrained in TV and film and filmmaking and all that stuff. I really miss comics. They're just fun. They're fun to make, and they're fun to collaborate with a very small team of people making a book that goes to press. It's a unique kind of storytelling magic that I don't think the other storytelling mediums necessarily have. Prose is very solitary with an editor, but it's solitary.
Of course.
Filmmaking, you're a general leading 200 people. Television, same thing. Comics, it's you and maybe 10 other people maximum. It's a very small team, and you get to work very intimately with your collaborators in a way that you just don't in other art forms.
And the turnaround to seeing it come to print is a lot faster than a year-long movie or TV or whatever. So no, I can appreciate all that. All right.
All right. We've hit 2 hours. I should.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say real fast, a couple of fast lightning questions. B Things wants to know the key distinctions between Supergirl and Power Girl.
Attitude. Worldview, overall worldview, and age and experience. And I also think, like, depending on which version of Power Girl you're approaching, like, there's a very bitter version of Power Girl that has historically run through the books in a way that Supergirl is typically not.
Agreed.
Power Girl, like, really felt the loss of Krypton, Kal-El, all that stuff in a different way than Supergirl.
Absolutely.
New Supergirl has.
And doubly so with Infinite Crisis and losing Earth, Golden Age Superman and Lois as well.
I've always wanted to do a Power Girl Supergirl team up, and I've never gotten to do one. And that's, again, like, bucket list things of, like, stuff I always
and I don't know how much that's really been touched in the comics, and it should be, because they really are in a very different way than Bruce Earth 2 and Bruce Earth 1 or Clark Earth 2 and Clark Earth 1. No, I think that's an interesting character dynamic. Anja wants you to know you did the impossible, making him like Vibe in the awesome mini that you made. Did you pitch that, or was that brought to you?
I came in issue 3. They'd written the first 2. Jeff and a guy named Andrew Kreisberg had written the first 2 issues, and I came in on issue 3, I think. And then we were supposed to be a 12-issue like maxi series, and then we were cut down to a 9-issue series, and then I wrote the ending, and then they gave us an extra issue, and so I got to expand the ending. It did not sell well, because at that time, this is 2013, Vibe was not on TV every week on The Flash. He was not on the Justice Society of America mural in the Superman movie. he was a character no one cared for because what people knew about him was he was like the breakdancing, jokey superhero of 1985.
Oh, yeah.
So we tried really hard to sort of rehabilitate that. We tried to rehabilitate that character, and I just think the audience wasn't quite ready for it because it was. I think if you did a Vibe miniseries now, which by the way, Vibe has not appeared in a DC comic book since Forever Evil in 2013 when he got shunted to a pocket universe with the rest of the Justice League. And I've pitched every way I can. I've pitched, let's bring Vibe back into the universe, and no DC editor has ever gotten back to me on that pitch. So
that's interesting because, again, especially with the idea of inclusion and where we are, despite the government's tries to the contrary, no, I think Vibe would be. This is the chance to redeem Vibe in the way that he was redeemed in the Flash TV show. I always say it was Meltzer and Johns and whoever else they were friends with that when they were in college. They were the only ones that were enjoying JLA
Detroit
yeah.
Justice League. Yeah.
And I just hung out with Englehart in because I wasn't he the writer, or no, was it Conway or Englehart that wrote JLA Detroit? It was Conway.
I think at that point it was Conway with Chuck Patton, maybe.
Oh, sure. Yes, of course.
Art duties.
Yeah. No, I think you're right about that. All right, because I was going to say
maybe it's Englehart. Maybe someone in the comments is going to call us out on that. But like,
I'll look it up.
But also, those comics are 40 years old, and a lot of life has happened since then. So,
No, and again, thank God you guys really did give justice to Vibe, and I think he was much better portrayed on the TV show. Thank you, Mario. Ren Schmidt is Margot on For All Mankind, and she is Marla McGivers in the new Con series. Jerry says Conway as far back as I remember. And then, Jerry, I wanted to give you a moment because, as you said, if I may, it sounds like studios and network television want to shift over to streaming if it means writers and other people are losing revenue. That's something I never considered before. But, I think you're right. And that is my suspicion, that there will always be an over-the-air product, but they really want you to get into the subscribing mode in some way. Sorry, go ahead. No, I was just going to say, I don't know what will make up the programming of the over-the-air product. I mean, we're seeing now all the game shows and reality shows that we're getting in lieu of scripted television. But I don't know.
I am hopeful that the Flash sees syndication at some point because that revenue stream would be very welcome.
I get it.
It's right now it lives on Netflix, and I suspect it will live on HBO Max once its Netflix syndication goes away.
That's my assumption. Yeah, all those shows.
I would love for it to be on TNT because I would love for the 70 writers that worked on that show for 9 seasons. I'd love for all of us to see syndication.
Yeah.
But, again, I'm not in charge, so we'll see what happens.
I hear you, man. Well, the good news is you've made this excellent movie. Again, everybody, Just the Janitor. Hopefully to be coming. Well, you if you're going to, you said LA Comic Con, or
we're planning. Hold on, I can tell you the exact. It's LA Comic Con Sunday at I think 2:30. I don't want to. Hold on, I'm pulling it up on my phone.
It's all good.
I'm gonna have to actually pull it up on.
No worries. While you're doing that, we'll remind people that the omnibus that collects Supergirl and the entire New Krypton story that James Robinson, Greg Rucka, and Sterling gave us however many years ago, that's coming back. And I'm thrilled about that. Here's another great cover.
LA, oh my gosh. Josh Middleton, shout out to Josh Middleton. I love this cover so much. Putting Nightwing and Flamebird up against Supergirl was such a fun. This is the crossover that I wrote with Greg. Those issues were such a joy, and working with Greg was such a joy. Like,
he's the man.
Just the Janitor is playing at LA Comic Con at the Los Angeles Convention Center, September 28th, which is a Sunday, at 2:00 in room 403B.
Beautiful.
Heard it here first, folks.
Excellent. There you go. Man, no, dude, great seeing you. And when you have something new, whatever medium it is, please let me know, and we'll absolutely talk about it. And it's an excuse to get back into some of the great work that Sterling Gates has given us over the years. So I really appreciate you letting me know. Hey, I got something new. Can we talk?
Our conversation again, like the last time we talked was New 52 era, and that we had to scotch that whole podcast because of real life. Hawk and Dove, because of Hawk and Dove. But it's always a pleasure to talk to you, man. Like
Thanks, man.
I really enjoy listening to Word Balloon, to your pod, and like I think you get some of the best interviews from comic creators. And I'm so glad we got to sit and chat, and I'm glad you like the movie. It's a labor of love. And yeah, I hope that I have something fun next year and we can sit down and do it again.
Hear, hear. Hopefully. Thanks, Sterling Gates. Thanks, everybody. Next Monday, I believe the plan is Jim Zub will be back. Jim, who's having an epic run on Conan. Conan is going to celebrate its 25th anniversary with Titan in October. And they're going to have a very cool anniversary, a fully painted issue. I'll let Jim give us all the details. But it's a great chance to talk to our favorite current Conan creator. No disrespect to Barry Windsor Smith and Roy Thomas and their fine work over the years. But so that's going to start off next week on Word Balloon Live. Join us then. Until next time, everybody stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy.